Welcome to the spectator's creepy tales. So sit back, relax, and let the silence fill your abode. Now open your eyes. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give him that needeth. Ephesians 4 verse 28. Kevin had intentions to break in an old two-story house on Archer Street. He had to devise a plan. For a few days he watched the house and studied the old woman's habits. Also, he intentionally walked by the house scouting for ways to enter the rear access. No one knew of Kevin's plans, and he wanted it to remain that way. He did not want to be told not to do it. He had made up his mind to follow through with it. Kevin was running out of money, and he had to pay for his stay at the hotel. If he don't pay for his room, he will be put out and would have no place to go. Plus he has been having urges, and he has to meet those needs as well. Walking past the house, he felt apprehensive. The house was more than what he imagined. Everything about the place was wrong and fear gripped him. Kevin saw that it was a 3-story house instead of 2-story. The tall windows gloomed like a predator waiting for him to enter the forbidden zone. He felt like he was being watched, but he didn't want it to be obvious that he knew. The house had some lights on, but other rooms were dark. Those were the areas where he felt that he was being surveyed. Nevertheless, Kevin was determined that he was going to get in that house. He deduced that the old woman that lived there had valuables hidden in random areas. Kevin was certain that he was going to be the person to find the treasures that he assumed was in hidden areas. After midnight, the entire house was dark and maybe the old woman was asleep at that time. As he anticipated his move, Kevin noticed that it was a starless night and the moon seemed like it never existed. This made the streetlights dim and the areas were quiet and dismal. As he walked down the quiet street, Kevin saw shadows that disappeared in the dark corners of abandoned buildings that he passed. He hurried and turned on Speck Street and entered a corner store to buy some cigarettes. Then Kevin saw him. Barry the bum was standing at the counter and was counting change out to the cashier, Mr. Abe. Mr. Abe seemed annoyed, and he wanted to get Barry out of his store. Barry was a shoplifter, but he was a desperate soul. He had no one that cared for him and no permanent place to lay his head. His clothes were dirty, tattered, but he had on a new pair of shoes. Kevin heard that there was a homicide, and the person was missing his shoes. Barry did what he thought that he had to do to survive. He was probably wearing the victim's shoes. Kevin did not like Barry because he often was accused of crimes that really Barry committed. Kevin purchased a pack of cigarettes, and then he left the store. It started thundering and lightning illuminated the sky. In his reckless mind, Kevin perceived that this was an omen for him to carry out his plan. He felt that no one would perceive what he was going to do. He had to hastily act upon his task at hand. As Kevin walked down the dark street with one streetlight flickering, he had that gut feeling to turn around and go to the hotel where he was staying. Yet he continued to walk until he came to Turning Point Drive. Unrelenting, Kevin was persistent on his journey down the deserted way. It was late and only a few cars were passing every now and then. The house was now a block away from him. As he neared, he got that feeling not to venture into that abode. Because he didn't have the heart to yield to any warnings. He was a man that lived by his own rules. Greed compelled Kevin to follow through with the plan. He passed a lot of abandoned places and homeless people along the way. He judged them like they made their choice, and it was a consequence of their behavior. He just didn't know that these people had hope and dreams. Not all of them were addicts. Some of them were families who lost their homes and jobs. They had to resort to living on the streets. Micah, a manager at the neighborhood restaurant, was locking up. He saw Kevin about to walk past him.
"What's up, young blood?"
Oh, hey, Mr. Micah. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, son?
I'm good.
Well, don't be out too late, man. Bad weather is approaching. I want to get home before it does. Hey, I still have an opening at my other business. Look me up if you're interested.
I will, Mr. Micah.
Be safe and if needs be, go home. Get out of this weather. It's a bad sign for anyone to be out this night. Once I open this here building across the street for some homeless families, I'm going home. You should too.
Kevin looked at Mr. Micah and that was another warning, but his depraved mind would not accept it.
I will, Mr. Micah. Drive safely.
I will. Good night.
Kevin didn't want to prolong his time talking to the store owner. He was tired of him mentioning about a job. Kevin didn't want to work, but he didn't mind taking what didn't belong to him. So he continued to walk down the street. Kevin thought about what he was going to do. Was it really worth it? Once he pawns some of his findings, he will run out of money again. Where did he lose it all? What is it that won't allow him to let go of this illegal adventure? As he neared Archer Street, Kevin thought about all of the warnings and that gut feeling to let it go. Finally, a few steps away was Archer Street. Kevin made it to his destination. He stood on the corner adjacent to his targeted house of fortunes. He eyed the place wondering if the old woman may be asleep. He wished that she was, because he didn't want any confrontation. Kevin thought about how he often saw the old lady get into her black 1950 Lincoln Coupe. A white picket fence surrounded her front yard, and the place seemed welcoming during the day. However, a privacy fence concealed the backyard. The old woman appeared like she never adapted to change. She wore vintage dresses and jewelry. Her shoes were black or white pumps of a bygone era. Carrying a weathered black purse, the woman wore black gloves which covered her hands like she still considered herself privileged. She wore an array of hats, but a veil covered her face at all times. The old woman only left her house once a week and everyone knew that she lived alone. Kevin had been in prison before because of petty crimes like shoplifting, stealing radios from cars, but nothing really dangerous. However, he later developed a habit that caused him to commit random acts against the law. Kevin resorted to desperate measures to support his desires for drugs and to occasionally have a place to stay for the cold nights. He used to live with his sister Melissa and her husband, Roy. Because of his constant criminal acts and lack of respect for their house, his brother-in-law put him out. The only person that was trying to keep him on the straight and narrow was his cousin Tyrone. His cousin was a detective with the local police department, and he warned Kevin that he would arrest him if that would keep him out of trouble. Yet Tyrone didn't know that cousin Kevin was a young man still up to no good. Standing on the corner of Archer Street, Kevin reflected on his conversation with three of his buddies, Darnell, Malik, and Sylvester. He met them in a detention center, and they were friends since that time. These guys had jobs and always wanted Kevin to work with them. They talked to him all of the time about it. However, each time Kevin told the guys that he applied where they worked, but no one called him for an interview. The fellas knew that Kevin was lying, and they busied themselves to stay out of trouble. They also avoided Kevin because he was still indulging in criminal activity. They did not want to be incarcerated again. Kevin saw the guys hanging out at the park and he went over to chat with them. He planned to mention to them that he was going to break into the old woman's house on Archer Street.
Hey fellas. I'm going to do something, and I wanted to know if y'all wanted to come in on it.
The guys looked at Kevin and they knew that he was up to no good. Malik spoke up.
Whatever it is, I don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Malik, stop assuming things. You don't even know what I'm going to say. Just listen.
Malik sighed and gave Kevin a look of contempt. However, Darnell and Sylvester encouraged Kevin to say what was on his mind.
You know the old house on Archer Street?
The guys didn't know of the house that he mentioned. They worked all the time, and they rarely strolled around the neighborhood. Sylvester inquired.
What old house on Archer Street?
The big 3-story house on the corner of Archer Street and Turning Point Drive. You know where that weird old lady lives?
Malik intervened in the conversation.
He's talking about the old lady's house that we used to avoid on Halloween. What about that house?
Well, I think she may have some money there. I'm going to break in and have a look and see.
The three guys were stunned that Kevin was going to break into the house of an elderly woman. She lives alone and doesn't bother anyone. Although he should not invade anyone's home, he was downright remorseless to bother an elderly woman and her valuables. Sylvester crossed his arms across his chest and looked at Kevin.
Are you serious, man?
Yeah. Fellas, we can do this. It's a simple in-and-out job.
Darnell could not believe that Kevin had planned an awful deed and he wanted no parts of it. Yet he had to express his concerns.
Kevin, I wouldn't bother with that old lady. She's old enough to be all of our grandmother. You need to stop that foolishness.
Surprisingly, Kevin was annoyed by their responses.
Come on, Darnell. She's not related to me and none of y'all either. Besides, she probably goes to bed early and that's why I will go in there to get what I feel is valuable. Then I will leave.
Sylvester spoke up.
I'm not interested. I'm not getting myself into trouble no more. I used to rob and steal, and I had to go to jail for those choices. After I got out, I married Milani. We just had a son. She told me that if I get in trouble again, she will leave me for good.
Darnell and Malik listened to Sylvester, and they agreed with him.
Yeah, I'm not interested either, Kev. I have 5 children, and Dana has tolerated me through thick and thin. I'm not messing up and going to prison. You need to stop what you're doing, man.
Darnell, come on. Just think about it.
No, saw. I'm not getting involved with that.
Fellas, be serious. It's just an in-and-out job. We can do this. No harm, no foul.
Malik chuckled and Kevin glared at him.
What are you laughing at, Malik?
Man, you know you ain't going to leave. That's a big house. You might hide in one of the rooms and each night, you will get more stuff to take.
No, Malik. That's not what I'm going to do. You always act like you know me.
That's because you are predictable. You plan to clean that lady's house out. Even if you don't lay a hand on her, you are making her a victim. Kevin, you are a trip and you're wretched.
Man, shut up. You used to do the same thing that I'm doing. Remember how I met all of you. Y'all are no angels or heroes. Look, I know old girl got some valuables in there. She looks like old money.
Malik saw that Kevin was becoming irritated, so he continued to annoy him.
First of all, don't tell me to shut up, Kevin. I'm not your kid. Second, you need to go to rehab and afterwards, get a job. Be a man.
Kevin stood and Malik arose from sitting too.
I don't know why the hell you mentioned rehab. I'll work when I'm ready to work.
Malik expressed disapproval to what Kevin planned to do.
Kevin, you're raising up like you want to do something. Please make your move because I'm always ready. Yeah, we all had a past, but we saw the error of our ways. We are working men with families. You have no respect. That old lady don't bother nobody, and I heard something about her. You are a lousy man.
Darnell intervened. He didn't want an altercation to occur between Kevin and Malik.
Y'all chill. We don't need no fighting round here. All of us on papers and the rest of us don't want to get in trouble.
Kevin and Malik continued to stand face to face.
D and Kev, calm down. Everything is copacetic. We was just talking, right, Kevin?
Kevin scowled at Malik.
Nope. You was talking. I couldn't hear you.
Shaking his head, Malik chuckled.
Lord help me. I'm going to remain calm. I don't have time for this.
Kevin replied to Malik's comment.
Neither do I. Neither do I.
Then Sylvester, the once neighborhood thief, now working man, spoke up.
I have lived out here for a while, but my Uncle Junior lived out here for a long time ever since this area was just woods. He's 75 years old, and he has a good memory. He told me stories about this area, and he said he don't remember that house being there, or it being built.
Kevin interrupted.
Is that the same uncle who's been an alcoholic for decades?
Malik gasped.
You're out of line. That's cold.
Kevin laughed, but he noticed that the other guys didn't laugh. Sylvester arose from sitting and addressed Kevin.
No, Malik, don't warn him. He's going to be hot soon. Don't talk about my peeps, Kevin. My uncle is not an addict like you. He fought for this country, and you cannot imagine the horrors that he's seen overseas. He has saved many lives as a medic in special forces. If you were in a dangerous situation, he would be the one to help you because that's what he was trained to do. Don't you ever say that again about my uncle or I would set your world on fire, and that's a promise.
Kevin saw that Sylvester was serious and he held an intense look in his eyes. Sylvester was not a turn-the-other-cheek guy. He was still developing in that area, and he would physically injure Kevin. Sylvester would make a weapon out of anything that's near him, and Kevin didn't want to deal with the repercussions.
My bad, Sneak. I was out of line.
Alright, but don't call me Sneak anymore. My real name is Sylvester because Sneak was my past. I don't do that no more. Alright?
Okay.
Anywho, I still have something to say about old girl.
Kevin didn't want to make the guys angrier, but he was tired of being warned. He was going to break into the house regardless of what the fellas say.
Go on. I'm listening.
Well, my uncle said that it's like that house just showed up. Uncle Junior said that when that creepy place appeared, a lot of people started coming up missing.
Kevin smirked because he felt that the guys were being ridiculous about a simple job that he wanted to do.
Come on, man, it's not that serious. I'm going in and then I'm coming back out. I come across some money, I'll gladly share.
Malik laughed and then murmured something.
Something funny that you want to tell us, Malik?
Yeah. I'm going home, but you go all willy-nilly in that lady's house. This is the hood, and nobody ever broke into her house before. It may not be as easy as you think, but hey, you do you.
Malik walked away. Darnell and Sneaky looked at Kevin. Kevin pointed to the house.
I'm going in that house. She won't even know I'm there.
Darnell raised his hands in the air as if he was disgusted.
Let it be known this day that I don't want to have nothing to do with that. I don't even want to know about it.
Sylvester agreed with Darnell.
Me neither. You really should consider the danger that's involved. She lives alone and like Malik said, nobody bothers that house.
The guys walked away and left Kevin alone. He reflected on the warnings each guy gave him. Nevertheless, he was determined to carry out his plan. He weighed his options, but he would not relent. The night had come that he was going to carry out the deed. Standing on the corner, he thought about the warnings that came from the guys. However, he made up his mind. Kevin started walking toward the house. He walked past it because he wanted to see what the best entrance would be. He saw no warning signs to indicate that any dogs would be in the yard. Turning the corner, he saw loose boards on the wooden fence. He yanked the boards off and tossed them to the side. Then he made his entrance through the opening and into the backyard. It was dark and gloomy. It looked like a junkyard. The backyard was crowded with old furniture, 2 old cars and about 4 trash cans by a dilapidated shed. The trash cans got his attention. Why would an elderly woman that lives alone need 4 trash cans? Yet this did not hinder what he wanted to do. At the rear of the house was a decrepit screened porch strewn about with broken furniture and flower pots. Kevin checked the door, and it was unlocked. He slightly opened it and listened. He wanted to make certain that the old woman was not awake and walking around. Closing the door behind him, he made his way through the dark house. The place smelled old, decayed, and it appeared as if no one lived there. There was a room that had large jars on several shelves. The jars were filled to the rim with quarters. That room had to have approximately $10,000 worth of quarters. Kevin thought in his mind that if he has the time, he will return and at least steal one of the jars. There were so many jars, the old woman wouldn't miss it. So far the room had high ceilings, and the windows were large like doors. The furniture was dusty and vintage. Curtains extended from the high ceilings to the baseboards. The old wooden floors creaked with each step that Kevin made. He started having second thoughts and was going to turn around when he saw her. She was sitting in a wheelchair and sleeping. He was surprised to see the old lady in a wheelchair because he often seen her walk to her car. Kevin neared the old woman with intentions to wake her. He wanted to scare her and let her know that he was robbing her house. He felt that he was in charge. Instead, she surprised him. When he touched her arm to shake her awake, the old woman grabbed his arm and with a needle in her hand, she injected Kevin. He fell to the ground and was immobilized. He was unable to move anything below his neck. Fear gripped him as he saw the old woman rise from the wheelchair. Next, she stood by his head and looked down at him. He knew that he was now in danger. He underestimated the old woman. Then she bent down, put her hands under his arms, and with supernatural strength, she placed him in the wheelchair. Next, she rolled him down the long hallway. He was able to move his head and noticed that there was a vast amount of shoes that lined shelves in each room that they passed. She placed him in a parlor, and she sat across from him in a rocking chair. She stared at him with eyes that felt like razor blades penetrating his skin.
So you decided to break in my house?
Kevin couldn't speak. He felt that this woman was going to unalive him and she had the right to do so. The look of fear was upon his countenance.
I always saw you watching my house and you were walking by too much. An old lady like me pay attention to everything. You can speak. Speak now.
Her voice terrified him and his eyes followed the room. Then he looked at the old woman.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
The old woman interrupted him.
Oh, you meant to come in here. You didn't expect that I would be waiting for you. Your youngsters always want something that you don't work hard for.
Kevin nervously asked the woman.
What are you going to do to me?
I don't know. It's midnight. By 3 a.m. I will know what I should do to you.
If you let me go, I won't come back.
Hush, child. I don't need no suggestions from you. I'll make the decision. Okay.
Kevin didn't want to aggravate the situation anymore. He felt that if he speak kindly to the woman, maybe she wouldn't harm him.
Shoes. Why all the shoes? You fix shoes? Are you a shoemaker?
No, I'm not a shoemaker. These are the shoes of every person that has broken into this house.
What happened to them? Did you harm them?
No, child. They left me their shoes and they left from here, a changed person.
Why did they leave their shoes?
They left their shoes because it was either that or they would have lost their feet. They wore those shoes to do evil and to offend me. So to ensure that they would not walk in that way again, I kept their shoes. You want a pair? Certainly you don't want to put on the shoes left by thieves.
The glimmer in the old woman's eyes alerted Kevin that she was no joke. With the strength she possessed, she knew some tricks.
No, ma'am. I don't want the shoes.
Good. I was just asking because thieves likes to covet other people's belongings.
Kevin didn't like what the old lady said, but he could not do anything about it. He broke in her house, and he had no choice but to listen to her.
Did they ever come back to this house?
No. I never saw them again, but they made the choice to turn away from doing wicked deeds.
How do you know that, miss?
Oh, I know. What's your name, boy?
My name is Kevin.
For now, I'll call you Thief. Thief is the ideal name for you.
But I didn't steal anything, lady.
The old lady stumped her foot on the floor out of anger. Kevin grew more fearful. He didn't want to ignite her to want to do bodily harm to him.
Why did you come in here? I don't know you, and I certainly didn't invite you over for tea. You wanted to come in my house and steal some things, and that makes you a thief. My name is Matilda Price, and for now, your name is Thief. Agreed?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you hungry?
Yes, ma'am.
That's good. I made some liver stew, baked bread, and lentils. I would have to feed you, of course. It will be a while before that medicine wears off.
Against his better wishes, Kevin ate the food that the woman served him.
Why are you feeding me? I mean, if you're going to hurt me, why give me food?
The woman looked at Kevin, and then she thought of his questions.
My mother and father said that if we have guests, we are supposed to feed them. You look rather thin, so that's why I'm feeding you. I have to show good hospitality, although you are a thief that broke into my house.
I appreciate that, ma'am.
You may address me as Matilda Price, Miss Matilda or Miss Price. One of the three. Okay. I told you my name a few minutes ago, and you don't want to remember my name. Pay attention, young man.
Yes, ma'am. I meant yes, Miss Matilda.
Now, I was thinking about what I should do with you.
Miss Price, why don't you just let me go? I won't ever come back to your house.
I don't believe you. You are a thief by nature, thief.
Kevin was becoming annoyed, but he felt feeling coming back in his feet. He noticed a pair of men brown tassel loafers. He inquired about the shoes.
Oh, those shoes belonged to Grady Emerson. I'll tell you his story. This happened 30 years ago. Grim Grady is what I had called him. He used to gamble a lot, and he spent some of his money on spirits too. You do know what I mean by spirits, right?
Yes, Miss Matilda. You're talking about beverages to make a person intoxicated.
Matilda nodded in agreement.
Right. Well, his wife moved with the children, so he had no home. She was tired of him spending all of his money and hers. He was a thief too because he used to steal money that his wife worked hard to achieve. When she left him, he lived in a shelter, but he had to get that money that he owed from a card game. Well, he used to always sit on the steps of the abandoned house across the street. He would just sit and stare at my house. He also watched me come and go. You know, like you did. I summed him up. Then one night when I was working, he came in the house and thought that I was asleep. My floors creaked when he entered the house. I purposely leave some loose boards so I will be alert when a heathen has invaded my place. Well, the house was dark because I was working in the cellar.
Kevin was curious about what was in the basement.
What work was you doing in the basement?
Thief, that's none of your business, and stop interrupting me. Do you want to hear the story or not?
Yes, Miss Matilda. Go on, please.
Well, before I was so rudely interrupted, I heard him moving around upstairs. So I got on the elevator to wait on the second floor.
Kevin was puzzled and he murmured the word elevator.
Elevator?
Yes, there's an elevator in this house. Anyway, Grady searched some of the rooms downstairs. Then he came upstairs where I was waiting for him. I had the light on in my room. He hesitated for a minute and then he entered the room. I hit him with a club and he fell to the floor. Some of the items that he had stolen were stacked downstairs in the parlor. I had to do something to him. So I injected him with my special concoction. He woke up tied to a bed in one of the rooms and he was scared when he saw me. He asked me if I would untie him. He said that he thought that nobody lived here and he wanted a place to sleep. I told him that he was lying because I used to see him watching. Now, I told him that if he answered a question correctly, I would let him go. Unfortunately, he couldn't answer the question, so I kept him for a week, but I moved to a more uncomfortable area. Each time that I posed a question, Grady didn't know the answer. So I kept him a little longer.
What were the questions?
I'm not telling you, thief. Just listen, will you? Stop interrupting or I will put you in a dark room.
Kevin gasped. He didn't want to go to the dark room. The house was dark enough. Miss Matilda continued the story.
Grady begged me to let him go, but I had to be sure that he had learned his lesson. I had to take something from him so he would remember to avoid my house at all costs. I underestimated him. He managed to find something on the floor and get out of his confinement. He was about to get away, but I immobilized him again. He was unable to speak, but I had made up my mind that he would pay for his deeds. I put him to sleep and did an operation. He awakened to find that his appearance had been altered. He now has 2 left feet, and he has uneven steps. His legs are also of 2 different races. When he saw what I had done to him, old Grady screamed in terror. I kept his shoes, and I gave him a pair of crutches. He was barefooted, but I warned him to never come back this way again. I never saw him after that.
Kevin was astonished. How did this lady know how to perform an operation?
How? What?
One question at a time, thief. I am a doctor of medicine and a surgeon. I've been trying to stay away from people because of what happened to me.
What happened to you, Miss Matilda?
Well, if you must know, thief, I had an accident. It happened when I was working on a serum to cure the illnesses like tuberculosis and the virus called yellow fever. These ailments invaded the city and surrounding areas. It was misunderstood illness and there was no definitive cure. People were expiring because the illnesses were so severe and they developed resistance to some of the medications. It was a spirit of infirmity, and I studied both viruses thinking that I had the cure. I mixed the wrong chemicals and almost burned down the house. I received chemical burns from my waist up.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Sure, thief. I know that you're not sympathetic, so stop the fakery.
Kevin realized that the accident in her lab was a horrible memory. He wanted to ease the tension that was developing as she reminisced of her chemical burns.
I am sorry to hear that, Miss Matilda, but I don't see where it affected your face.
The old woman did not want to talk no more about the situation, so she changed the subject.
I guess you don't want to eat no more. So I'm going to take these things in the kitchen.
Wait! Why do you have 2 pairs of tennis shoes tied together?
You sure asked a lot of questions. Recently, there was another one just like you that asked a lot of questions. He was cunning, but he wasn't smarter than me. I'm still thinking about what to do with you.
Kevin was going to get her to talk more to ease her anger towards him.
I just wanted to know because I never saw shoes tied together like that.
Ms. Matilda placed the dishes on a table. She returned to the chair to explain to Kevin about the shoes. She was unaware that the anesthesia was wearing off. She began her next story about the 2 pairs of shoes tied together.
One night a woman and a man came knocking on my door. Her name was Shayla Cummings and the man's name was Eric Simmons. I don't answer my door for no one. So I just stood quiet. It was a summer night. They looked like they were up to no good. I made sure that the door was unlocked. They tried the door, and it opened. They came inside. The house was very dark, and I stood in the corner and just watched them. They had escaped police custody, and they planned to hide out in my house, take a few things and steal my car. They were unaware that I was in the room with them. I was quiet and stood in the corner. As they maneuvered themselves down the hall, they fell through a trapdoor. By the time that I made it to the room where they were in extreme pain. I mended their wounds after giving them an injection. When they awakened, the woman saw that I had removed her right arm. I removed the man's right leg. In place of the missing limb, the woman had the man's leg where her right arm should have been. I attached the woman's arm to where the man's right leg should have been. I kept their shoes. They now share a body part, and that's why their shoes are tied together. I put them in my car and drove them to the police station. Of course, I hid my car and put each of them in wheelchairs that I obtained from an abandoned hospital. I took my time and wheeled them in front of a precinct and walked away undetected.
Kevin's jaw dropped. He was now afraid of what she was going to do to him.
Why do you want them to leave their shoes?
It was their shoes, their feet that led them to my house to steal. Proverbs the 6th chapter, in the Bible, talks about 6 things that the Lord hates and 7 are abominable. 2 of them are, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, and feet that be swift in running to mischief. Does that answer your question, thief?
Kevin.
What did you say?
My name is Kevin, and that's all you need to know, Matilda.
Kevin lunged forward, pushing Matilda to the floor. In the process, her head hit against the edge of a table behind the chair. She passed out. Kevin saw a tear on her face that indicated that she was wearing a mask. He removed the silicone covering and saw a grotesque burned face. Instantly, Matilda opened her eyes. Kevin fell back.
Evil menace. I'm going to get you real good. I will not let you leave here, you thief. I trusted you and thought that I was reaching you. You proved me wrong. You just opened my dark side and I cannot control it now.
Kevin got up quickly and was walking backwards. He was strategizing a quick escape. If Ms. Matilda catches him, she will unalive him for sure. He ran from the room. He opened a door thinking that he could escape, but he saw glass containers filled with body parts. The whispers of the souls who lost limbs to the strange woman cried out to Kevin. Warnings and lamentations stirred Kevin to escape with haste. He had to get out of that house and avoid being mixed-matched monster or worse, unalived. Then he heard a chainsaw. Kevin ran out of the room, then he heard a noise behind him. He turned and saw Miss Matilda running towards him with intents to possibly unalive him. Kevin continued to run. While passing a room, he saw that the window was boarded. It was a room full of an array of shoes, and among them was a pair that was familiar to him. Kevin saw the athletic shoes that Barry the Bone was wearing. Could he be the person that Miss Matilda said, recently, there was another one just like you that asked a lot of questions? He was cunning, but he wasn't smarter than me. Kevin continued to run with Miss Matilda in hot pursuit. For her to be an elderly woman, she was incredibly strong and fast. Kevin made it to the rear of the house. Matilda grabbed his shirt, but he got away. Kevin's shirt was torn, but he made it out the back door and onto the street. He managed to get out of Miss Matilda's house of horror. He ran all the way to his cousin's house. He pounded on the door, awakening Tyrone.
Man, what's wrong with you? I'm glad that you didn't wake up Sybil. Do you see what time it is?
I know, and I'm sorry. But Tyrone, cuz, please let me stay here tonight. I promise I'll leave in the morning.
What did you do, man? Is someone after you?
No. I mean, I don't know. Look, man, I have to tell you something.
Come on in, man.
Kevin entered the house and sat on Tyrone's couch.
You got a lot of explaining to do coming to my house this time of the night. I'm finally off for 3 days and you waking me up. Who did you get mixed up with?
I did something bad. Oh damn, Kevin. What did you do? I attempted to break into the house.
Tyrone interrupted him.
Wait a minute. Let me interrupt you right here. You broke in somebody's house?
I said that I attempted to break in a house. Please listen because this is important.
Tyrone was becoming angry.
It better be.
There's a house on Archer Street and Turning Point Drive. An old lady stay there. I broke into her house and man, she was waiting for me. She injected me and fed me.
She injected you?
Yeah, and I couldn't move at all. It's like I was paralyzed. She had shoes everywhere and I asked her about all of them. All the shoes belonged to people who broke in her house. She told me stories of people who broke in her house and she did some kind of twisted surgery on them. The lady is crazy. We got in a scuffle.
You hit an old lady? Kevin, what is wrong with you?
She's no normal old lady. She's strong and she's fast. That lady is evil.
Kevin's hands shook nervously.
What's the lady's name?
She said that her name was Matilda Price.
Sounds familiar. Okay, go on. Finish telling me.
She told me about Shayla Cummings and Eric Simmons who escaped from police custody.
Wait a minute. Now we're getting somewhere. Those were fugitives.
I know. She told me that they broke into her house and was talking about staying the night there, stealing some things and taking her car. The house was dark, so they didn't know that she was standing in the corner. Man, she switched up their body parts. Then she delivered them to the precinct.
That did happen, but she didn't tell you the worst. She removed their tongues so they wouldn't talk.
Kevin covered his face with his hands. He had survived a terrible ordeal.
She mentioned a man named Grady. He broke in her house and I'm assuming that he was her first victim. She injected each of her victims with some kind of concoction. She performed a surgery on him and gave that man 2 left feet. One leg is Caucasian and the other is African American. I don't think that she was being patriotic when she did that. He probably has been walking in circles ever since.
Tyrone listened intently at his terrified cousin.
I don't remember that house, but I want to ride over there.
No. Don't go there.
I just want to see the location and then I'm calling for backup. You may be arrested.
Ty, I don't care. I just don't want to see that lady or the house no more.
Just show me the house and I won't go inside. I just want to ride by.
Kevin realized that Tyrone was not going to allow him to rest until this mysterious house was located.
Okay, man. Let's go.
Tyrone had driven past the location and Kevin indicated that it was indeed the house that he broke into. The building was dark and ominous with the exception of one room. A single light revealed something. Both Tyrone and Kevin saw the silhouette of someone looking out a window. Kevin parked his car a few feet away from the house and alarmingly the house disappeared right before their eyes. What remained was an empty lot. Tyrone didn't report the incident and it remained a paranormal event that he and Kevin witnessed. Kevin never broke into a house or committed crime again. He admitted himself into rehab. He had nightmares and had to undergo therapy. Upon his release, he went to see Mr. Micah and inquired about the job offer. He was glad that Kevin was now willing to work. He was hired to work in a warehouse as a security guard. After leaving from the interview, Kevin passed a flyer pinned to a pole. He stepped back to read the contents. It was a picture of Barry the Bum. Somebody reported him as a missing person. Kevin was fortunate to get away and turn over a new leaf. His friends were glad to see that he finally got a job and is living an honest life. However, no one knew the horrifying experience that changed Kevin's life for good. One day he will share his story, but for now, he don't want to say her name. He fears that it would summon her back. Her house disappeared, but in what neighborhood would find a strange 3-story house at the end of the block?
It's easy to come into my humble abode, but it is hell getting out. Still, I welcome you. I can use the company.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember that the spectator is always watching and listening for a story to add to the creepy tales.